Hi everyone, my name is Aslı Cennet Yalım. I'm a PhD student at University at Buffalo School of Social Work. My research area is around the contextual factors and individual experiences of Syrian refugees and their psychosocial well-being. I spent most of my life in Turkey, which has led me to have a particular focus on the Syrian population and the crisis. Today, I will provide a brief overview on the conflict in Syria, Syrian refugees and their needs. Here you see a map of Syria at night. The left picture was taken in 2012 and the right one 2 years after. When you compare these two pictures, you can clearly see that some parts of the country are now completely dark. The total number of displaced Syrians is 14 million due to the war. That is more than half of the population of the country before the conflict began. This is Damascus, Syria. No neighborhoods anymore, no kids playing in the streets. Even though the war will end at one point, how many years would it take to rebuild these cities and put people back to their homes? It will probably not happen anytime soon. This is a before and after picture from Homs, Syria. The top picture is really similar to some neighborhoods where I came from. Same type of apartments, cars, streets, trees. When I look at the bottom picture, I keep asking myself, what if my city or town was destroyed like that? What would we do if our country was in the same situation? The answer is that we could try to find a safe place in the closest area. For Syrians, neighboring countries are safe places. These include Turkey, Lebanon, Jordan, and some parts of Iraq. These countries have been trying to meet the basic needs of Syrians. However, they also have economic, political, and social issues themselves and have been overwhelmed by refugee populations. Despite the displaced 14 million Syrians, only 4.8 million of them are registered refugees. More than half of these registered refugees are in Turkey, which often creates tension between local communities and Syrians. If we look at the demographics, almost 50% of registered Syrian refugees are under the age of 18, and 1/4 are young girls. These numbers create some other concerns related to children and women. Out of 5 million registered Syrian refugees, only 10% are in refugee camps. The majority live in cities along the Syrian border and throughout the neighboring countries. Therefore, humanitarian organizations only reach a small percentage of Syrians in need and cannot follow up on their physical and psychosocial needs. This map shows how many different groups are currently controlling different regions of Syria. About 13 different groups exist in the region. The gray section is ISIS and the red section is the Assad regime. This map also demonstrates how difficult and dangerous it is to stay in Syria while these groups are still there. Therefore, the whole situation in Syria and neighboring countries are getting worse and more complicated. After Germany announced that they will accept 800,000 refugees, Syrians put their lives at risk to take the route to Europe. They pay smugglers to help them cross over to the Greek islands in tiny boats. Once they are in Europe after this dangerous travel, they make their way north passing through Hungary, Serbia, and Macedonia. But this journey not only costs them economically and emotionally, they also have to think of their future. For instance, these young Syrians are drying their wet transcripts because if they want to continue their education in another country, it is almost impossible to request them from their schools in Syria. Some of you might remember this Hungarian camerawoman who tripped and kicked a Syrian man with his kid. Unfortunately, some countries are not welcoming to refugees. In addition to violence that Syrians were exposed to in Syria, they also have to deal with this kind of hostility after they leave their country. You have probably seen a lot of different news stories about refugees. Some of them are just biased, and they are reinforcing the hostility and polarization in the society. That's why we might need to read or watch not only news from mainstream media, but to educate ourselves with information from independent and unbiased sources. Otherwise, we can't see and understand the reality about refugees and Syria. What about the United States? After the Obama administration announced plans to take in 10,000 Syrian refugees, 26 governors said that they will not accept any Syrians. The House also passed a bill that creates even stricter screening processes, particularly for Syrians. Despite the fact that the current screening process is already very strict, this attitude against Syrians delays their arrival to the United States. A total of only about 2,500 Syrian refugees have arrived in the United States since the 2011 fiscal year. Is it really that hard to welcome refugees? For some countries, it's not. Countries willing to accept refugees have already experienced that refugees make their country stronger both economically and culturally. Why not let refugees feel safe again then? Besides accepting refugees to their countries, resettlement countries like United States also need to consider the most effective ways for refugees' integration to communities. For example, what would be the most appropriate process for addressing mental health and psychosocial well-being of refugees? This is a model created based on the CDC's mental health assessment for refugees. Bigger terms are used most frequently in this assessment. You can see it is dominated by a medical model. PTSD, depression, psychiatric symptoms are the most salient words. It is really hard to see any terms related to psychosocial well-being, culture, and integration. Do you think their experiences are only about trauma and PTSD? I don't think so. What they need is to receive psychosocial support and culturally appropriate services. The attention should be given to their strengths rather than describing them as victims of mental health problems. Here in Buffalo, we have seen that once refugees are given an opportunity to be part of our city, they contribute to the society culturally, economically, and socially. Today, Buffalo continues to serve as a destination for refugees. 10,000 refugees have been resettled here since 2001. New York State is the fourth largest recipient of refugees in the nation, and almost a third of these new arrivals settle in IRRI County. Buffalo is a preferred community because it provides opportunities for newcomers to achieve early employment and sustain economic independence. Changes are being felt in many ways. They are reshaping city neighborhoods, renovating houses, and opening stores and restaurants. Their contribution is not only about the revitalization of the city, but we also get to learn different worldviews and how to respect and understand each other. I hope you found this overview helpful. Thank you for listening to me.